You spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money raising livestock. How can you double the yield from one chicken or from one pig? How can you get more meat, more food, more from your animals? In today's video, we're going to answer a lot of the questions that you had on our channel about how to get more from your harvest of your livestock, whether you're raising pigs, chickens, whatever animals you're raising for meat. Let's get into how to waste nothing from your livestock, increase the yields double or more from what you're raising in today's episode of Ask Homesteady. Hello everybody, this is Ask Homesteady. It's the weekly show that we do here on the channel. Did I say weekly? Weekishly. We do this where we answer questions that you leave here on our channel. And those of you who asked the questions that we're going to answer this week have used the hashtag, all one word. There's a rooster breeding over there. I didn't know what the noise was. All one word, Ask Homesteady. Not at sign. I yelled at one of you for using the at sign. Pound, hashtag, Ask Homesteady, all one word. And the reason why we're sticklers on that is just so that we can find your question. When we sit down to do Ask Homesteady, we punch that into our filter, and it filters all the comments so we can find the Ask Homesteady questions. And if you use that hashtag, you are much more likely to wind up getting a question answered. Today, we are talking a bit more about a subject that was brought up in a previous Ask Homesteady, using all of the pig that we had just butchered. In that video, I talked about using the pig's head to make jowl bacon, and so many people had never heard of jowl bacon. It was really nice to see how many people are going to learn about this wonderful thing. So many people followed up with the question, what else do I not know about OST? What can I make sure to use from my animals? How do I get more from the animals that I'm raising for food? Let's dive in. Some of you wanted to know what to do with the pig, what other parts of the pig could use, or rabbits, corn tucks, quail, chickens specifically. Some asked, what do we do with the organs? Others asked, what do we do with the hides or the skin? I think Jerry really summed it up best. Ask Homesteady, can you please go over how to use all parts of the animal? Thank you. So Jerry, we're going to answer your question and everybody else who piped in with questions like this today. And I want you to, before we dive into this, I just want to say two things. First off, I do not want to sound like I'm on a soapbox today. I don't want to be preaching to you about how we use everything and you're being wasteful, because honestly, we shared in the last video, we have not always taken advantage of all the things we could have from our animals. So if you're not there yet, I look at this as a skill that you will get better and better at through your homesteading life, finding places where there are waste and using them and taking advantage of them. Because if you think about it, we waste stuff all the time, right? The food that we eat, there's this horrible figure of how much food goes into the garbage every day across the world. There are people who are hungry and there's food getting thrown away. That's a disturbing number, but food's not the only thing that we as humans waste. If you think about it, we waste our time all the time. When was the last time you opened up Instagram? Unless you were looking at a homesteady post, it was a waste of time. Joking. I waste a bunch of time on Instagram. I finally had to set a limit so I would stop wasting time on Instagram. And what's more precious than our life? All that time we waste is actually our life being wasted. We waste money, right? We buy stuff we shouldn't have. We do quick purchases without thinking of it. Sometimes we leave the lights on in the house. Guilty. That wastes money. So we waste time, we waste money, we waste food, we waste all over the place. So why would the animals that we raise and butcher be any different? Of course there's going to be some waste. So today's video is just kind of a guide on how to approach this problem on your homestead. Identify areas where you can improve. It is a skill you will get better and better at over the years. So don't feel bad if you're at the very beginning and you feel like, oh man, I'm being real wasteful. And if you're a person who's better than I am at this, and I'll be honest today about the things we're good at and the stuff that we're still working on, just be kind in the comments section. Don't be too preachy. I'm not being preachy. Let's get in first to how do we try to take advantage of everything on an animal that is edible? Because there's edible and there's non-edible. So let's head in the barn and talk about the food that doesn't get wasted. Oh man, the guineas are so loud in the barn. I have got to kick them out of the barn. There's a reason we filmed in the hayloft last week. Let's go up to the hayloft. It's too noisy down here. Okay, let everything kind of quiet down. down there. I want you to think about if you've ever been a fisherman, caught a fish, kept it to eat. If you've ever filleted a fish, you know the first time you try to fillet a fish, you do a miserable job. You get that fish down on the table and you take your sharp fillet knife, hopefully it's a sharp one, and you like take that fish and you try to cut along the spine, and the knife tip goes through the spine of parts and rips it out of the fish, and then you start turning it and you miss a lot of the meat by the cheek and up by the head, and as you come back you pop open all the insides and ruin the fillet. You get a lot of bones in it, and even though you caught a nice fish, your fillet winds up looking like a potato chip. Thin, small, and when you look at that first fillet you think, my goodness, there's no point to catching and keeping fish. You waste so much. Point is, the first time that you harvest your own animal that you've raised, that you've hunted, whatever it is, there is going to be waste. Things you just don't know how to do the right way, a skill you don't yet have, there's gonna be waste. That first fish you fillet, I tell my kids, everyone that I've taught how to fillet a fish, they see me do it, and I'm really good at filleting fish now. I'm not a pro, I'm not super fast, but I'm very, very good at getting all the meat off of the fish and using all the parts. They see me do it and they think they're doing something wrong, and I tell them, hey, this is the first fish you've ever filleted. If you could see the first one I ever filleted, you'd laugh. It was miserable. So just do your best, you'll get better. That's how all of this is today. Do your best and know that if you keep trying, you will get better. So when it comes to things that are edible on an animal, let's talk about a pig. They say a pig, you can eat everything but the squeal, nose to tail, it's all delicious. And that is true. One of the beautiful things about a pig, even the hide itself is not a hide, it's a skin. And so you literally can scald and scrape that pig and use everything in your cooking. Very, very little on the pig that you can't use in some way for food. And so, of course, you know the regular stuff that you're going to use for food, the steaks. When you're cutting steaks off of a pig, there's little bits and pieces of meat that can't be cooked like a steak. They're too small. That is where sausage came from. All those little bits and pieces of pork, and the same applies to sheep or beef or any other animal, chicken even, little scraps can be turned into sausage. Now let's identify a few areas you want to pay attention to that you may have missed before. In our last video, we talked about the jowl bacon. So on a pig, you can use the head. The jowls make bacon. The ears can be smoked. You can have those. You can give them to a dog as a dog treat. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Going all the way through the pig to the tail and the feet. The feet will thicken up your soups. If you've ever made a stock using the feet, you know it'll become like a solid tube, all the gelatin in there. Pigtails. Pigtails are delicious. I love taking like 3 or 4 pigtails, and we do them like we've done them in the past, like hot wings. And again, you can use them in stews. You can. A lot of people you'll see use different parts in when they're making like rice and beans. Of course, you can make cracklings with the skin and the fat. The fat, you don't want to waste any fat on your animals, especially your grass-fed, pasture-to-plate animals. That fat, render it down in a crock pot. It'll turn into like an olive oil, it will look like. And when you pour it in a jar and let that cool, it'll solidify and it will look white like Crisco. And that's great for cooking. You can use it in baking and all sorts of other things. Organs and offal, let's talk about that. Heart. If you're new to this world, it might skeeve you out to think about eating an animal's heart. The heart is a muscle. I want you to think about when you're eating a T-bone steak, delicious T-bone steak, what are you eating? You're eating a muscle. It's the muscle that runs along the spine there. The heart is just another kind of muscle. There are few meats that my family enjoys more than heart. So if you've not tried it, try it. The heart is not the only organ that you should be interested in at least trying. There's liver. There is kidneys. Tongue. We love eating tongue. Some people don't like to eat tongue. We like it shreds up nice, a shredded meat. You can put it in tacos. You can put it in burritos. Delicious. Try it. You have to just try it. And you have to try it a couple different ways, a couple different recipes. Get past the point where you're not doing it because it skeeves you out. Because that's a dumb reason to not try something, that it skeeves you out. Just get over that. But if you genuinely just do not like the flavor or the taste, at some point, you don't want to eat something because you don't like the way it tastes, well then good, you've tried it. Like we tell our kids, you got to try it before you say you don't like it. But at that point, you know, there are other things we can do to take advantage of this. Liver's a good example. In our family, nobody likes liver. We've tried different animals' livers. We've tried it in different ways. I know you're going to comment below with the recipe that we need to try that's going to change our minds. And if you want to cook it for me, I'm happy to take a bite. But we don't much like eating liver ourselves. So, does that mean we throw it in the garbage? Of course not. And in the rest of this video, we're going to kind of dive into some of the other things you can do to take advantage of that product instead of throwing it in the garbage. I know a lot of people value with the organs their medicinal or their nutritional value. I'm not here to comment on whether it's good or not to eat liver or good or not to eat heart, but a lot of people will put a lot of weight into that idea that that's something very healthy. And so even if you don't like eating some of these things, like for example, liver, I know of a homesteading family who will take the liver of animals and they'll dehydrate it and they'll grind it up and put it into a powder, and they'll put that powder into a little capsule and they'll pop it like a pill. They're taking their liver pill every day. So if you don't like eating liver, there's an option. You could pop a liver pill. As I go through, remember, this video is just for ideas to inspire you, to hopefully add some things you hadn't thought of before. The comments section, please, I know I'm going to forget things. I looked just now at my list and I said, oh man, I haven't talked about bones yet and how you can use them for edible, you know, what you can eat. So forgive me if I forget something. Just comment below. The comments are a great resource. It's why YouTube is a great resource. Not only do you get to hear the stuff we do, but you get to share what you do. And I always read the comments, so I learn all the time from comments you leave. So please, if I forget something that you do, comment below. Bones. We like to cut a lot of our animals on a meat saw and keep the bones. When you cook it, I find I like a steak on the bone. I think it has more flavor. I like the presentation. But even with that being done, there's still big bones left over that you wouldn't have on a steak. What do you do with those bones? Stock. Stock is great, adds a ton of flavor to things. Kendra makes an awesome chicken and dumplings, and she uses our homemade chicken stock in it. I'm getting hungry just talking about this. What doesn't make me feel hungry is kidneys, chicken feet. What do we do with some of those other strange things that we definitely don't like to eat? I am a millennial. And so because I'm a millennial, you know a few things about me. From time to time, I like to grow a mustache. I like to wear beanies. And of course, I pay way too much for dog food. Dog food, good quality dog food. I know, your dad bought like old Roy and your dog lived till he was 24. I get it. I buy expensive dog food, so judge me if you want. I don't always buy expensive dog food though, because dogs are just one of the many animals that we use to help use up some of the waste product from our butcher days, from the animals that we process. A lot of what we process can go right to the dogs from any species. So one rule, and we're going to talk about this now, animal waste product from your butcher day can be used to feed other animals on your homestead. But we do want to be careful about not feeding the same animal to the same species animal. If you know anything about mad cow disease, they were feeding cows cow. Bad things can happen with diseases when you feed a pig or you feed a cow. So just as a general safety precaution, we don't like to feed the same animal to its own kind. Dogs, we don't butcher any dogs on the homestead, so dogs can eat some stuff from your chickens, they can eat stuff from your pigs, they can eat stuff from your cows, all across the board. Now there are people who will feed their dogs raw chicken bones. There are people who would never do that. Comment below, I'm sure you're going to, telling me you should never feed your dog chicken bones. I'm not arguing, I actually don't feed my dogs chicken bones. I know some people do. Anyways, not here to tell you whether or not to do that. The point is, dogs, while they can eat a lot of things, for example, from your chicken, I don't mind piling up my chicken livers. We don't like liver. I know you make pate. I know it's so good. Please make me some and I will try yours. But right now, our chicken livers, we don't like to eat. They go into the dog food. I spend a lot of money on good quality dog food, except for on a day where I, for example, can feed my dogs some chicken livers and other scraps combined with that to take care of what they need. Now, before I get the dog comments, again, they still get a dog food. They're getting the minerals they need, the nutrition they need, but I like to supplement their diet, take a little bit of the bill down each month for what I spend in nice, good quality dog food, and add some protein to their diet through scraps. Dogs are not the only animal that you can do that with. Pigs are a great way to get rid of waste on the homestead. For example, just recently butchered one of the deer. I took everything that was good for human consumption, but there is still some stuff on the deer that's totally fine to be eaten by something that no human would ever want to bite. For example, I like to let the deer age to get the better quality meat from the deer. Where it is exposed to oxygen, the meat will oxygenate. If you've ever aged meat, you know oxygenated meat will turn a dark, almost a black color. It will lose all its moisture. It'll become like a nasty jerky. So it's not anything any human wants to eat, but don't throw it in the garbage. Trust me, your pigs will devour that. And the magic of the pig, they will turn something that would have wound up in a landfill, and they will turn it into bacon. If that's not a superpower, I don't know what is. As a general rule here, of course, you do not want to feed meat scraps, any offal, that kind of thing to a ruminant. Please don't give your sheep or your goats your chicken guts. Stick to the omnivores and the carnivores. Now, they're not going to eat all of the stuff. You're not going to give all of the internal cavity to your pigs or all of the internal cavity to your chickens. So the things there that are just not fit for anything to eat, they can still be used. You still don't have to wind up in a landfill. In this instance, I want you to think about feeding what feeds your animals. So for example, if your animals wind up eating a lot of garden scraps, I see where I'm going with this, your garden needs nitrogen. On Chicken Butcher Day, there is a pile of feathers. I'm talking like a human-sized pile of feathers. The kids could jump in it like a pile of leaves, although it would be the most disgusting smelling pile of leaves you've ever jumped in, and they'd probably all puke afterward. Kids, if you're watching, stay out of the feather leaf pile. Anyway, chicken feathers are super high in nitrogen. You could grab all the chicken feathers from Chicken Butcher Day and you could throw them in a garbage bag and put them on the curb, and they could wind up at a landfill, or save the plastic garbage bag and the gas to haul it off to the landfill. Take those feathers and put them in your compost. They will be broken down. They will turn into an amazing nitrogen-rich compost that you give to your garden, that you grow amazing quality vegetables, and you grow so many vegetables that you have vegetables that are wasted and spoiled sitting on your countertop, and then you take those vegetables and you throw them in the garbage and they go to the landfill? No, you feed them to your pigs and your chickens. So feed what feeds your animals. Compost is a great way to do this. It's something you can do for hides or any other part of the animal that is not fit for any kind of good consumption. Of course, we're talking about low quality hides that cannot be used for some purpose. Obviously, you know though, hides can be tanned and turned into a product that you either sell or use yourself on your homestead. Now, tanning hides is a very skilled thing. Like any skill, it involves knowledge. It involves using some either chemicals, or you can tan with the animal's brain. There's a good way to do no waste. I'm going to be honest here. We have never tanned a hide off our homestead. We have saved a few that we like to be tanned, but we ourselves have not done it. And if you haven't done a hide, again, this is an area we can get better at. I want to be honest here. I don't want to be on a soapbox saying you waste so much and we never waste anything. It is a skill we get better and better at. Managing waste is something we get better at on our homesteads. We used to throw away the pig head. Now we make jowl bacon. Hides, we compost our hides. They wind up in the compost pile. You cannot, and this is something I better get out there now or I'll have 1,000 comments about how you can't do this. If you have a small little compost pile in your backyard, it will never get hot enough. It'll never work properly if you put meat products in that compost pile. So please don't think that what I'm saying is to take a hide from a goat and throw it in your little compost tumbler and roll it around each day, because you will puke. That will be horrible. We are on a homestead. We have a tractor. We have a compost pile that's taller than me. If you have a huge hot compost pile that you can leave for a couple years, which we can, you can put an entire carcass in that. We've had this happen on our last homestead. We had an animal die of poison, and we didn't feel comfortable feeding that to other animals. We didn't want to risk something. So that whole animal went in a giant compost pile where it could break down over time. Again, you can't do that with a small compost pile. You can't rush that kind of breakdown. But if you have the ability to have a huge pile, turn it with a tractor and give it a long, long time, nothing to worry about. That's what happens in nature. Animals decompose, become nutrients again, and go back into the soil. Of course, you can also make products with a hide, like leather products. Every time I shoot a pheasant, Uncle Bourbon tells me, save all those feathers. He ties flies with them. Deer tails for making flies, making jewelry. There's all kinds of different ways to use the skin, the hide, the feathers, whatever they are. If you can't do something with it, see if there's someone else around you who would like to. Maybe on social media. If you got this hide and you just don't know what to do with it, throw out a tweet, throw out an Instagram post. Hey, I'm gonna have this hide. Anybody around know what to do with it? Want to use it? Is there anything? Just see, because the less waste we can have on our homesteads, the better. I know this is a video that there's gonna get a lot of people nitpicking things I'm saying here. The whole point of this video is to push you, nudge you in a certain direction. If you decide to compost a meat animal, there's gonna be a lot of comments below saying you can't do that, you shouldn't do that for these reasons. You can do it, just do your research. I'm not saying just throw a dead animal in a small pile of compost. There's gonna be people who say you should never feed chicken scraps to your dog. Well, I didn't say feed your dog chicken bones. I know that even uncooked ones can still shatter or splinter and cause problems. This video is not here telling you feed your dog dead chickens. It's here to nudge you in a direction, say, hey, look into this. You need to do your own research as to what to do. I'm just telling you these are possibilities you can look into, and certainly read the comments below. There will be a lot of things you can learn from the comments below. The last thing I want to cover is just some general rules for a homestead that if you follow these rules, you will more easily have bigger yields, use way more of your animal, have much less waste. So the first rule here is when you are planning your homestead, designing your homestead, choosing what to have on your homestead, animals, gardens, etc., plan to take advantage of as many different wastes as you may have. Say you're gonna raise chickens, you're gonna have a bunch of chicken feathers on Chicken Butcher Day. You can make a great feather compost, but if you don't have a garden to benefit from that, then it's waste. So that's kind of actually the second rule is, you know, chickens in a compost pile. If you just have some chickens running around your homestead like we do, there's one right there and a bunch over there. That's probably the first animal you're going to get anyway. Chickens, they can eat all your table scraps. They can eat all the meat scraps. Turn that into chicken poop, which then can be aged and it's like they become your compost provider. So going beyond that, now we can start to think about other animals that can really be big waste consumers. And that's why I came outside here. Camels. Camels aren't, no, I'm just kidding, it's not camels. Definitely don't want to feed your camels meat waste products, because then you'd wind up giving them mad camel disease. And one thing you should know by now is you don't want a mad camel on your homestead. Pigs are the original homestead waste disposal. They are the original kitchen garbage disposal machine. Now, I'm not telling you to feed your pigs garbage. That's definitely not what we're saying here. But pigs can turn so many of the things that you don't want to eat into bacon. You know, your apples go rotten. Oh. All right, guys. All right, settle down. I literally, the other day, I butchered a deer and I threw it to these guys. And I want to show you what's left of the carcass that I threw to them. That right, oh well, no, that was what was left. That right there, that little bone. And it's probably left because they didn't realize it was over there where I just found it. The pigs took the whole carcass and they ground it up. The rib bones, they crushed and they munched on, and they gnawed. Okay, there's a little shin bone over there. There's a couple teeny tiny, and he's already now, now that he knows it's there, he's starting to chomp on it and play with it. it gives them something to do, something to chew on, something to munch and play with. And I know some people are gonna come below, oh, that's not good, you can't give pigs your carcass. What happens in nature? What do wild hogs, what are they? They are one of nature's garbage disposals. And I'm saying the word garbage, but I don't mean garbage. Meat and bones is not garbage. It's something that's a wonderful product. I would not set my pigs loose in a dump. That's actual garbage. But in nature, pigs go around and they find carcasses, and what do? Any hunters from down south can tell you. Pigs will come and they will eat all the meat and rip up all the organs and eat all the bones. So is it okay to throw a pile of bones to your pigs? Absolutely. They're gonna grind it up and chomp it up, and they may not eat all of it, but they will process a ton of it. They'll enjoy it, they'll make use of it, so it's not waste. Now again, I gotta throw my caveat out there. I know someone's gonna say it in the comments below. Oh, if you're selling pigs for meat consumption, then you can't feed them table scraps, that's illegal. Maybe it's illegal. If you are selling pork to restaurants, to the grocery store, as cuts, and your state says it's illegal to feed them table scraps to do so, then okay, it's illegal. I'm not telling you to break the law. But the table scrap police, they're gonna be here, I know. Every time I have a video where I mention feeding your animals scraps, it's like the table scrap police comes out, wait, you're gonna kill everything, everyone's gonna die, and you're gonna get arrested and go to jail. Do your research, make sure you're not doing it just because some Joe Schmo on YouTube said to do it. This video is just to inspire you to look into more ways to save on the waste and increase your yields. Which brings me to my next rule for homestead. The next way you can really increase your yield, and that is to butcher your own products. You have to remember, when you go to a butcher and pay them to process an animal for you, they have a standard process. Oftentimes you're working at a facility that has a USDA inspector. Even if your meat's not being inspected at a custom cut operation, generally the facility will have a USDA inspector there, and there's certain things that they can and can't do, that butcher. They may not be able to rehandle certain parts of the waste products. They may not be able to put them aside and save them for you. If you want to limit your waste to make it basically no waste, butcher yourself, because you can use everything. You can decide, you know what, the gut pile we're going to use in the compost pile, and the offal and organs that I don't like to eat, I am going to save, and I'm going to feed those to my dogs or my pigs or this or that. And again, do your research. Don't feed your dog too much liver or too much kidneys and wind up getting your dog sick. Again, do your research. This is just an ideas video. But that said, if you butcher it yourself, you will take the time that is necessary to make sure there is zero waste. That is one of the powers you can take over if you butcher it yourself. Start learning how to do it yourself. It's a great skill to have. We have a ton of videos at this point on butchering. I probably have a playlist I can link to right there, all butcher videos. And my final rule for your homestead becoming a place that's no waste, that allows you, to maximize your yields. My final rule, remember the peanut butter jar. Here we go. When you get a jar of Jif peanut butter, that jar is full of that stuff, and you whip out the bread, you start making PB&Js. I love peanut butter. I am definitely hungry doing this video. Towards the end, you know what happens in the peanut butter jar, right? There's like peanut butter down at the bottom, and you start getting the butter knife out and you're scraping it, and maybe the lid's got a little extra. When no one's looking, you just kind of like, I really like peanut butter. You try to get all the peanut butter out of the jar, but at some point you say, you know what? This one's done, and you throw it in the garbage, and off it goes to the landfill. You can get a lot more peanut butter out of the jar. You can use different tools, use your finger, try to lick the top. At some point, there is a little bit of peanut butter stuck in that, and you just call it. You could pour boiling hot water and drink peanut butter drink. I love peanut butter, and even I think that sounds disgusting. At some point, you are going to have a little bit of waste. So remember, nobody's perfect. There will be some things wasted. You live a modern life. We do hear often of people who live off the land and that they would use every part of the animal, and I don't doubt that. If all I had all day long to do was go hunt and then take that animal and process it, and then spend my whole day and the next day and the rest of my week working on using every bit of that animal, I could have a zero waste homestead, absolute zero waste. I don't have a zero waste homestead. There are things that get wasted. It does happen, whether by mismanagement, by lack of skills and knowledge, lack of time. That is a real thing. Processing an animal is a ton of work. It's a long day. If you have a weekend to do it and it's Sunday night and you just can't do any more and you wind up having a hide that goes bad and then you put it in a garbage bag and it goes to the landfill, you'll do better next time. We'll keep getting better at this together. No doubt the comments you leave below are gonna help me. And if you like the fact that we do Ask Homesteadies, you wanna make sure we can keep doing this show, click there to become a Homesteady Pioneer. We cannot do the show without Homesteady Pioneers. Talking about stuff like this on YouTube, these videos get demonetized. The just atmosphere is a bad place to run a business. I am able to do this business because Homesteady Pioneers, who really appreciate the fact that we share everything as honestly as we can. We show all kinds, good and bad. We do the show because of you guys. It's $5 a month. You get a ton of bonus content, including a lot of good butcher videos, the in-depth versions. Click there to learn more. We will see you in the next video. If you want a question answered, hashtag Ask Homesteady. Whew. I'm gonna take a breath now.